Welcome to the Ideal Investor Show. Join us on the journey to financial success. Let's go. I hope you're all doing well. And today I wanted to look a little bit at our theme, speaking about legacy. And the reason I thought about this is because I saw somebody bringing up the question in an article on Substack, which, oh, by the way, I want to encourage you. If you go to substack.com and put in Idea Wealth Grower, you will find that we have a really extensive collection of articles and notes and resources and courses and all kinds of stuff. So obviously, I would love for anybody that is listening to the show here to become a paid subscriber, but you can also get a free subscription that gives you pretty much most of what we're offering. And there will be an awesome course coming out in January 2025 together with Terry Lay. And that's probably going to be the date when we actually separate free subscriptions from paid subscriptions. But I just wanted you to be all aware that if you haven't checked it out, substack.com Idea Wealth Grower is definitely an amazing place that we provide a lot of additional value for anybody who is interested. Now back to the topic that I was referring to, and that is in that article on Substack, somebody asked, how many decisions, if you look at a deck of cards, how many cards do we have to play in a lifetime? And that article was about all the kinds of decisions that people make in life. But I thought, well, if I reduce that to how many decisions, how many cards to make decisions for investing do we really have? And maybe also how many do we really need? And so thinking about it, if I look at my own portfolio and what I've done, I would say up until I was 40, there was one decision that I made in the context of investing that was to buy an investing property, a single family home, relatively close to where I was living with my family while stationed in New Mexico. Now, I've written and spoken about that investment many times. It didn't really make any money. It didn't lose us any money, but it was a very important lesson about professional property management. So that was one really important one in the investing context. And then the second one was about deciding to try to invest in the stock market with a little group of other fellow officers in my basically on the base. And we basically created a little bit of like a little club and had a certain idea of what we wanted to invest in. And we got massively burned in the .com crash because we had no clue. We had only seen stocks going up and we kept buying stocks that sounded interesting, didn't have any idea how to do proper research on the companies. Well, you can imagine the end result was when the market really crashed hard at the so-called .com bust. We lost, like everybody lost about 80% of the value. Now, we had made some pretty good profits. So in all honesty, we probably lost about 50% of what we had invested over time. But that was a very big lesson. So that was maybe the second card that I can remember playing. Then a third card was the general overall decision to really research how a proper portfolio should look like, and learning that it is an individual decision to be made. Individual in the sense of you decide what you want your predominant asset class to be. And to me, after having been burned with the stock market and having at least broken even with this very first real estate investment, I decided my dominant part should be real estate, and that is still true today with 65% of my investments in residential real estate, and then diversify around it with a few stocks and a few gold and silver coins and maybe a little bit of crypto and some cash. So 65% to 35%. That was an important decision. And I would go one step further and say, because any real estate investing into a property that you own outright and you have full control over it, as you have heard me talk about many times on this show, I would call the decision which one to buy one of those cards being played. Now, if I look at my own portfolio of currently 10 properties, would I need more? Well, if all of them ultimately perform exactly as I'm planning and have been planning since I started investing, the answer is probably no. that kind of Goldilocks view is nice to think about, but it's not realistic. So some of my properties perform better, some perform worse. So I'm pretty sure that I'm going to add anywhere between 3 and 5 more. And somebody who is significantly younger, if you're in your 30s and 40s and even early 50s and you have 10, I would say definitely try to get to 15 or more. Now, this is referring to single family residences or maybe duplex. But if you have like anything that is larger, like, apartment complex with 8 units, 10 units, 20 units, then 10 will definitely be enough, no doubt about it. What I'm getting at is, so we spoke about the 3 previous decisions that I would say I played cards. Let's say I get ultimately to 15. So that would take 3 plus 15 is 18. And there are probably a bunch of other really core decisions about, for example, buying gold and silver coins. So that gets it to 19 and some other ones. So I would say what I have and what is kind of like in the reasonably foreseeable future would get me to 20. Now, how many more do I believe would be reasonable and what would be an average? For myself, I'm pretty sure that I not going to see more than 25 or 30 in my lifetime. I started relatively late in the first like 30, 35, 40 years of my life, I didn't make very many. Other people might make way more decisions much earlier in life, and I actually encourage that. If I could do one thing differently, I would say turn back time and make many more investment decisions, better informed ones, obviously, much more earlier in life. But what I think is pretty clear is if you say that a lifetime of a human being is somewhere around 80 years to maybe 90 years, and in the future it might get all the way to 100. And the first, for most people, 20 years is basically upbringing and maturing. So you have anywhere between 60 to 80 years to invest. And you take a normal deck of cards of 52 cards, then you would really not have to make more than one decision, play one card per year in your life. And I totally admit that there might be some years where you play 3 or 4 or 5 cards, and there might be 3 and 4 and 5 year periods where you have to make no decision, play no card. But I think it's a pretty good thing to recognize if each card in a deck of cards is one core decision for a significant investment, either as an asset class or as a substantial investment like a house or an apartment complex or a duplex or anything like that. Then you have basically one deck of cards to play. And to end this episode, I would encourage each and every one of you to ask yourself, applying these kind of criteria that I mentioned earlier, how many have you already played? And how many do you have left? So it's not a contest, and it definitely doesn't mean you want to get to 52 as fast as possible. I think ultimately if you do a lot of correct decisions, you don't have a loss like I did with the stocks, then maybe you only need 25 or 30 all your life. So I hope this was informative, and it gives a little bit of a different perspective if you have the whole time horizon of a lifetime to realize that one per year is probably the maximum on average that you really need to make a major investing decision. So that's it for today. Be well and stay safe, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.